Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Going bell to bell with the best in professional wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's get to all the exciting pro wrestling action and bring on the host. Here is Mark Hoke.
All right, good morning, everybody. What's going on? I gotta tell you, I'm in the hurt bag today, everyone, so bear with me. Call it a little bit of a bug, but hanging in there, because you know what? We gotta do the show. That's how it works. No, you can't take a day off. Well, you could, but I'm crazy like that. Very happy to have you with us here for the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment on the Mark Hoke Show on KDAWN 101.5 FM, the talk of Las Vegas, and streaming on X, YouTube, and Facebook. So if you'd like to join us in there and share your comments with us, we would certainly appreciate it. And we'd like to just mention once again that this show is sponsored by Dayquil. Dayquil, keeping you off your butt since about, well, the mid-70s, I think. All right, let's get the boys in here so I don't say anything else too stupid. We welcome in from the Wrestling Revolver. He is Phil Stamper. What's up?
I'm sitting there going, you said X, and I'm just holding. This is the sign language for X. I'm just holding it.
Phil.
And popped a little bit for Dayquil. Like, I'm almost at where you're at right now. So.
Fair enough. Oh, my God. And also joining us for hour number 1 is from Ad-Free Shows, Coach Rosey, Josh Rosenbaum. What's up, big man?
Mine would be a self-induced, self-inflicted Dayquil taking today. Yesterday was a hell of a day for football. So recovering this morning. It's good to be here, and wrestling's great.
Yeah, sure is. Wrestling is great. Oh, but a lot going on as we're getting ready for, boy, one hell of a Thanksgiving-ish weekend coming up, guys. Man, we are loaded to the hilt with pay-per-views all of a sudden. We got a little bit of a break over the past few weeks. But, man, we are going to be hitting a turning point. We've got Survivor Series. We've got Full Gear. I mean, this is going to be something else. And I wanted to start off with that dreaded Survivor Series pay-per-view as we are stacking up teams for that War Games main event, fellas. And Bronson Reed has been recruited by the Bloodline 2.0, apparently. Do you guys like the decision?
I like it because I think Bronson needs something more to do. So I like that it'll showcase him more.
Coach, you like that one?
I'd like to see him in the cage doing some of those flips. Imagine him going to some type of perch or even climb to the... Wait, there is no top in War Games, or is there? I don't know. But, I mean, imagine with his athleticism as a big guy, with him and the werewolf flying all over the place in the ring. Sounds beautiful to me.
Ooh, double flips off the top of the cage. I'm down with that. That would be all right.
As long as it's safe.
Yeah, as long as it's safe. But, yeah, I think it's an all right choice. I would imagine then, since the boys from the other team need another player and they keep fighting, I would imagine Seth Rollins would be the choice. Maybe. Is that their fifth guy? Would they invite Seth Rollins into the fold on this? Coach, what do you think?
He's kind of an amphibian. He can kind of fit into, or salamander, or whatever the gecko.
Chameleon.
Fit into chameleon, right? He can fit into any storyline and make the most of it. Him or Cody, you know, I would hate to see Cody because that would look generic if they just threw him in there. I think Seth makes it a little bit more realistic with Bronson Reed. And congratulations to Bronson. He goes from fighting Braun Strowman to this storyline. Heck of an improvement. You're right there, Phil. He needs something to push him because he's a talent.
Yeah, Phil, your thoughts on that?
I mean, yes, we agree.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. This is going to be a fun morning, I can tell already.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. But, yeah, you know, and I think Bronson's in just a weird spot right now that, you know, had he won at Crown Jewel, this might be a little bit different story, but he takes the loss to Seth. And clearly they're still trying to build him up as a monster, but man, wins and losses matter. They really do. I think people sometimes in the writing rooms forget about that we do care whether people win or lose. And even though Bronson is built up to this monster, if he still loses matches, it doesn't matter how big and bad he is. If you lose, and people will see you as, a losing wrestler. So, maybe a chance for, if you throw Seth into the Survivor Series match, to make it give Bronson maybe a chance of revenge on this.
I don't see anybody but Bronson Reed in this situation as the fifth man. I mean, if you bring somebody new in from the family like Hikuleo or somebody, you're not going to have that same reaction that you really want out of a pay-per-view. I mean, Bronson Reed can bring that reaction, and it makes sense for the casual fan that the storyline just progresses. For us in the internet wrestling community, we're always chomping at the bit for some new, awesome things that we haven't thought about. But this is very formulaic and follows the game plan of what they've been doing lately.
If Bloodline were faces, then I think we would be talking about a situation where they just signed Lance in Hawaii. Okay, maybe that you'll see him showcased somehow, but that this is not the story. This is not the position. I think it absolutely speaks to Bronson Reed seems to be that guy.
Yeah, I think this will be interesting if you do get Bronson and Seth in there. But I hope that something doesn't happen with Bronson, that he gets pushed down even more. So we'll see how that turns out. But it should be a fun main event. And then the only other, and I can't believe this is the only other match on the card right now, is Gunther and Damian Priest. Priest getting his rematch for the World Championship. You guys excited about this one? You feeling it, or is it like this already happened? Phil,
you see, I feel like I was so excited behind Damian Priest, and he's a great guy. I think he presents well, and then he became champion, and I felt like, okay, something's off here. I felt like something in the matches weren't triggering the right way, but now he goes on and has these great promos with Gunther that makes me interested in seeing a rematch, and so I'm excited to see it. At the same time, I'm like, I don't know how the match is going to be.
Coach?
Yep. Another good point. Gunther, again, can be put anywhere. And we haven't been shocked lately in WWE. And the shock factor needs to come back, because it's not very surprising lately, but it is good. It's entertaining, and it's the stories are keeping me. But surprise me somewhere. Whether it's now setting it up for the Royal Rumble or even long-term planning for WrestleMania. These seeds need to be planted. What was going on with that Sami Zayn thing where he was exchanging one thing from one pocket to the other? They were putting that on Twitter. I mean, so they're starting to put some Easter eggs out there to really advance the storyline.
Yeah, so we'll see how Survivor Series turns out here, but still a lot of matches to come. But another interesting thing going on in WWE is the United States Women's Championship, which I'm very excited about. I'm so down with this, that the ladies are going to get secondary championships. But I think we're also going to see an Intercontinental title coming soon for them, because all these women that are in the tournament are on SmackDown. We had the first qualifying match take place on SmackDown on Friday night, which Bayley has gone into the semifinals on that one. But guys, first, your general thoughts on secondary titles for the women.
I mean, it makes sense.
I don't like them. Good. We can counteract.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I think when you have too many titles, it dilutes it. I want one or two, maybe this third one, the U.S., because it kind of fits the patriotic theme that we're running with in the country. But why so many titles? Make them worthwhile. You've seen what it's done in AEW. The titles are meaningless. I would really, you say records matter. Well, being a champion matters. I watched Jake Paul go in there and get an MVP belt from his promotion. I was thinking, man, please, that is weak. We don't need any more titles. We need to make the titles even more important than they are now.
And to that overall, I don't disagree. Like if you look at the WWE as a whole, the WWE as a whole has, I think, too many championships. Where I think that this differs is in women's wrestling, you don't have some of that differentiation. And we're in an age where, you know, if calling out a match and saying this next match is a women's match almost calls it out as a circus side act versus the quality main event kind of action that you can see. And so just this next match is set for one fall, and now comes the competitors. Oh, look, they happen to be female. That's the point all along in the women's revolution in wrestling, or evolution, is we're not divas. We're the competitors, just like everybody else here. There shouldn't be a specialty match. And so if it's held to that kind of caliber and expectation, okay, there should be some differentiation. And since I think I understand what the WWE is doing on the business end, you can make more money if it's for a chase for a championship. To me, that makes sense. So if you look at it as a separate entity within women's wrestling, I think it's needed. I think as a whole in the WWE, they need to trim out some of these championships. I mean, do you hear us talking about the Speed Championship?
No, absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, but I would like him to bring back the 24/7 title.
I do agree with that.
That's my favorite title. You bring R-Truth, Kazawa, bring anybody. You know, have Tiffy win it, have Chelsea win it. You know, that would be fun to bring back as a comedy bit. But you're right about the titles.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm cool with it because the depth of the women's rosters have gotten to the point now where I think you can have a secondary championship and you're okay. And it was funny that I'd actually asked Shawn Michaels about that when they were putting together the North American Championship in NXT. And I said, Shawn, we're going to be seeing a U.S. Intercontinental title in the women's side? He's like, well, it's out of my pay range. Yeah, whatever, Shawn. I appreciate you totally lying to my face that I busted you guys. But yeah, I'm cool with this as long as you book it right. And I was thinking about this in my drug-induced stupor this morning, that those secondary titles, if you do them right, they're great. If you think back to what I would call maybe the glory days of the Intercontinental Championship, back in the days of Randy Savage and Tito Santana and so many other guys, that belt really meant something because of the feuds that you had. And the same thing with the U.S. title in the NWA. You had Magnum TA, for example, and Nikita Koloff and Tully Blanchard and all those guys elevating that title, and you had great matches and great feuds over it. Whereas I don't know if they've really done a good job in WWE making us really care about that. Now, I think Gunther did a great job as Intercontinental Champion. He built that title up. But like the U.S. title has just been kind of, I don't know. But it'll be interesting here with LA Knight and Shinsuke, as apparently that feud's going to happen. But I'm cool with the women getting an extra shot and see what they can do with it. If it works, it works. Doesn't. But I feel like the division's gotten big enough that they can have another championship for everybody. It'll be okay. So I'm down as long as you book it right. That's how it goes.
Very true. But I have faith in Triple H. He hasn't stumbled yet.
Maybe. I see Phil got a cringe on that one too. That's okay. It's not perfect, but they're doing a pretty good job in WWE. Progression. They're progressing. Yes. Oh my God, we're all messed up today. Oh my God, this is going to be one hell of a show. Oh man, for those that didn't catch the open, I am loaded up on cold meds, so I'll try not to drop any profanities or anything like that as I go along, though I really want to right now. Trust me. Getting out of bed this morning was not fun, fellas. But I did it for all of you because I love you. Boom, boom. All right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, hey, we got a big announcement on the WWE ID program for all of you fans in Las Vegas. We've also got a couple other interesting things coming up. Eric Bischoff is going to be making an appearance in MLW. Interesting. And then I'm going to start a little fight with you guys about what's going on with heels in pro wrestling? Why is everybody cheering them so bad? Stick around, everybody. We'll be right back.
Looking for high-quality custom screen printing in Las Vegas? Look no further than Off Grid Creations. Need a few custom t-shirts for a local event, band merchandise, or family reunion? We've got you covered. Large order of uniforms for your staff, sports team, or club? We can handle that too. Our experienced team will work closely with you throughout the entire process from design consultation to final product. Call us at 661-300-1115. That's 661-300-1115. Or visit our website at off-gridcreations.com. Get a free consultation today.
1015 FM KDAWN.
This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
Yeah, that's me. I am just happy as a bug to be here right now. Oh, man. What was I thinking? I'll tell you.
Support you.
Well, I appreciate that, Phil. You're a good man. You're a good man. But, by the way, don't forget Matt Black from WrestleZone is going to be joining us in the second hour. So that'll be fun. We should, Phil, Matt, and me on cold meds. Must hear radio, must see live stream. Should be a hoot, to say the least. So brace yourselves for a wild hour number 2. The WWE ID program is adding more people, and want to give a very special congratulations to one of our own out here, as Ice Williams was added to the WWE ID program, longtime FSW champion, and has been a staple of the Vegas wrestling scene for a long time. And want to give Ice a big congrats, very well deserved. And honestly, they could have took all 4 of the guys from Lights Camera Faction, and I think they'd have been all right. But Ice Williams is on the board for the WWE ID. And Phil, more and more people getting added to this program. I mean, this is right up your alley. You know, we've got some pretty good names out there. What do you think of how the WWE ID program is going?
For the most part, I'm going to say, well, you know, I look at a Jack Cartwheel and I look at a Jackson Drake, and I'm like, this is awesome. I don't know Ice Williams that well, but I've heard of him at least. You know, so some of the other folks I've heard, there is 1 or 2 choices I'm like, oh, interesting. Just because I know where they're at talent wise, that I have some question marks when I look at especially some other comparisons. I am more surprised that they first announced, you know, here are the schools associated with WWE ID, and many of them made sense. Booker T especially, I think he develops tremendous talent. And then the first few hires from WWE ID had nothing to do with any of those schools. And I'm like, well, that's interesting and telling in itself too. And then they brought in Gal, who has gone through, I'm going to mess up the name, I think the Elite Professional Wrestling School up in New England. And I was like, okay, there's one, you know, and so, and he's also a phenomenal talent too, with a phenomenal look. If you haven't not seen him, check out Gal. So I think they're going in a very interesting direction. I'm curious what it's going to mean next. I think there's some other questions, like over this weekend, I heard questions like, so does this mean they can't then, you know, some of these folks haven't never gone in for a tryout. So are they being brought in for tryouts, or are they next in line then for developmental deals? What about the people that just got signed who haven't gone through this? You know, where do they sort of stack up in the rankings of everything when it comes to a future pathway? Does that then block them from some of their opportunities? And I think I heard, and I don't know this to be true, but I think I heard that this feels more rumor, that in the WWE ID program, that the WWE has the right of first refusal. So if you get an opportunity to sign with like another company, like an AEW, that they would have the first opportunity to say, hey, we're interested now first before you can go there.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions about this. And, you know, I reached out to Ice. I was trying to get him on the show. We'll see if we can maybe get him on and answer some questions about that. But Coach, what do you think about this program? Do you think overall this is going to be a good thing for the independent wrestlers, or is there a chance that they're going to kind of maybe locking themselves into something that maybe they don't necessarily long haul want to be in, considering, like I said, Phil said, there's more opportunities out there than just WWE, and say New Japan or AEW want to get a hold of them. Now, does this actually restrict them a little bit?
It might, I don't know all the X's and O's of it all, but for some people, WWE or bust. That's what they think. They don't want to go through, the trials and tribulations of going through the indies. Maybe their goal was to just, be a WWE superstar, and they're going to go all in and try to make that happen. So it's really personal preference. Some people like to grind and really hone their craft and pick up tricks and traits and characteristics from every aspect of the country. And some people just might want to, be a sports entertainer and learn the WWE way. So in my opinion, it's win-win, because if you want that, go for it. If it's going to tie you in, well, being tied into WWE isn't the worst in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I'll be curious to see how this program turns out. When you do something new, you never know which way it's going to go, but it certainly can't hurt WWE, who, it's funny, Phil. I mean, just thinking about this a couple of years ago, they were like, we're not going to get any indie people. We don't want the indie guys. We want to just bring in our raw people and train them ourselves. And now all of a sudden, with Vince gone, we got an ID program.
Well, it was Triple H, though, who put over the NCAA recruitment program. And so I don't think this stops that. But I think it's recognizing, no, we do have this talent that we do need to rely on. Because if you only build a program that only features this group of talented people from this one base, then, where is the diversification in the education and knowledge base that you bring up? You can train people to wrestle, but then you have to build in a little bit more of the naturalization of how you feel in a ring and how you present in a ring, when you already have a core of people who have been trained to do that specifically and can do it really well. And I remember, and I think we talked about this one time before, when NXT first started, that was the whole thing. Oh, they're going to bring in these football players. I think they had signed an agreement with the NFL Players Association back then to, like, retired players could jump to the WWE very quickly. And then they hired Kevin Steen and Sami Zayn, Sami Callihan, like a few others, and it was like, oh, they're probably just going to use them to help train these guys to be better wrestlers. And who's had the Universal Championship multiple times? Kevin Owens. Sorry, I keep saying Kevin Steen. Kevin Owens.
It's okay. I understand.
Who's one of the most highly regarded people on the roster? Sami Zayn. Like, so it's sort of like, well, wait a minute. Then what is the story here? And so I think you could do both. I think this doesn't disregard the NCAA recruitment opportunity, but it also keeps a focus on independent wrestling, which is, I think, a good thing.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting about NXT that you brought up too, Coach, is when you look at the list of people that have been NXT champions, it's not that many of them that end up going on to becoming a WWE champion. I think I only counted like 9 or something like that. It was a very small number. It's kind of weird that it works out that way. And I don't know if that's just because of, what Vince was doing or how that all worked out, but succeeding at NXT does not equal succeeding on the main rosters in WWE.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good rabbit hole to get down. But, NXT, that NIL money that they're giving college kids, that's a drop in the bucket, because a lot of great college wrestlers don't go to some of the best universities. So to throw them $20,000, $50,000 to have an opportunity at a great wrestler in the future, that's a smart move, because now with NIL, it opens up everything. And, WWE, they're just hoarding a little bit. And if they want to make sure that they're the most successful and that they're going to stay on top, by all means, they're going to be able to use their power and influence to get the guys that they want. And the WWE ID program is just another example of that.
Phil, is AEW going to have to respond to this?
I don't know. Because when you look at how big the roster is at AEW, I feel like they've kind of done this already. Within AEW, and you know how much behind the curtain I'm sharing, they sort of have a tiered contract system anyway behind the scenes. So I feel like, in a way, there's almost WWE catching up to AEW.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that is very true. There's a lot of people hanging around AEW on extra contracts. So we'll see how this all turns out. But once again, big congrats to my pal Ice Williams, man. Good job. Good job. He's a terrific guy too. Very smart. Great ring IQ, man. I can't wait to see what WWE ends up doing with him. Getting out there on some of the other promotions here, we've got Eric Bischoff. The Bish Man is going to be doing a one-shot with MLW. This is going to be very interesting as he will be doing it. They're calling it the Eric Bischoff's one-shot with MLW's December 5th in New York City. That's going to be interesting. And I know Matt had pulled some stuff from an interview that was done with Eric, and we'll talk to him a little bit more about that. But are you guys excited about Eric Bischoff making a little one-shot show up at MLW? It's intriguing, Coach. I know you're friends with Eric.
Yeah, no, he's been talking to Court a lot. You know, he's going to take a vested interest in it. This isn't just a flyer for him. This is a passion project. You know, it was just random on Strictly Business. Paul Walterhauser was one of the guests, and Paul just picked up the phone and called Court live on the show, and they set up the deal right there, I guess. Eric will be out there December 5th. There's already a big main event already planned. I think it's Dijak against I forgot, but it's a pretty huge main event. But he's going to be working more on not changing storylines, but working on the production side of it, the lighting side of it. You know, maybe give some of the guys some clues on how to advance the story. But it's not going to be an apocalypse of MLW and Eric's going to take over. He's just going to be there to put his spin on things and to really give him that thrill of being backstage one more time.
Yeah, and Phil, it's very interesting that MLW decided to do this. You know, they just won that lawsuit against WWE and picked up, I believe it was $20 million, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way in upping the things that you can do with your organization, and bring in Eric Bischoff, even if it's for one night, just kind of hang around and take a look around and give him some tips. That's not going to hurt, and that's probably money well spent.
I mean, one of the most interesting things when during TNA, when Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff went over there, was they brought production knowledge. That was huge. That made a, no pun intended, impact to their production. And MLW needs some help in that regard. And they're having a change in production right now. They lost one company last week. Did I see that? I'm confusing a little bit of the story because I'm paying attention to too many things. I can't remember if Dave Marquez stepped down from MLW with production or stepping up to help with production. One of the two. But there's been some changes in their production, so it's like this is a perfect time to get that feedback and come in and be like, what do we need? What do we need to do? How do we change to be able to possibly grow and be better? Because I like a lot of the talent that they bring in, and they showcase a lot of young talent who don't have some of those eyes on them yet. And they have great partnerships with like a TNA. So being able to showcase like different people is wonderful. But yeah, they just need to up that game.
Yeah, where do you guys feel like MLW is fitting into the picture right now of pro wrestling? Because, you know, they're still on TV and they're out there and they've had some great champions out there and terrific talent. You know, you think of the Von Erichs were tag team champions for a while. Mm-hmm. Hammerstone, Jacob Fatu, in that, you know, had that incredible match, but they were longtime champions there. But there's just something that hasn't quite clicked with them yet. Is it? Does it come down to the production? Or I'm sure there's more to it, but you know, marketing and so on. But where do you feel like MLW is in the picture of the whole thing?
I just kind of follow him online. I followed him a lot when Hammerstone was there because he's our guy from Arizona. He's our Hulk Hogan. So once he kind of left, I kind of went off to the side a little bit. But I'm starting to come back now. I mean, Dijak's fighting Matt Riddle. That's a hell of a main event. And announced yesterday, Eric set up a match with Mystico and Trevor Lee. I mean, imagine that as the opening match to get the crowd fired up. Sometimes it might be how to set up the card, because how you set up the card gets the crowd fired up. Gets the crowd fired up, you get more viewers that are going to watch the show because they feel like they're part of it. You know, so those are the kind of tweaks and touches that I think Eric will put on there. And, you know, MLW has the resources. With money now, with that $20 million, they have the talent. Just a little tweak here, a little tweak there. Why not? Nobody was talking about TNA a year ago, and now look where they are. So it can be done in a matter of no time.
Things definitely need to be geared for them in a direction. a direction, any direction. and I say that because there are some great promotions out there that bring in a lot of talented people. And it's just like, well, what do they need to be showcased? And MLW has positioned themselves to be on a great platform. They have leveraged streaming technology. Like they put out a lot of stuff they're even doing straight to YouTube for free that you can be able to watch. But then it's keeping up. All right, we have this name recognition. We have these names. We putting on X quality of matches. Look at the visual, and does it compare to what I'm going to get if I watch a WWE, if I watch an AEW? And so it blends a little bit. And then when you, and this is not a knock, because again, I think they're giving a great opportunity for some people that you don't have a lot of exposure to. But then when you turn on the MLW and you don't know some of the faces, and then you look at the visual quality and you're like, what is this? And like you can sort of extrapolate in your brain, oh, I think the matches are okay, but visually when it's not coming across that same way, it's like, oh, well, okay, I'm seeing better at a TNA, at an AEW, at a WWE. Do I need to stay here and watch? And there are even some independents that are doing a little bit better on the production than MLW does too. So it's blended. But again, I think MLW is positioned to be in the right place with that tweaking.
You know, and it is interesting that we mentioned last week that AEW has decided they're going to go more of a sports-oriented production style, kind of like what WWE has shifted into. And I think with Kevin Dunn's departure, that the product for WWE and their production has just gone up a mile. And AEW apparently planning to go in the same place. And it really sets a precedent for the rest of the industry that they have got to put on a really solid production or people are going to turn it off. It's not like the days of the 80s, you know, where everybody was kind of like, we got a little bit of a grainy picture and all that. You can't get away with that anymore. You can't. And when you see, even with podcasts that are out there that are high level productions, you can't just skate by anymore. And these guys are going to have to learn that. You know, I think production values are going up, but you know, some of these guys are going to have to get better or they're not going to be able to keep up. And like you said, Phil, if you turn on the TV and it looks kind of you know, even if the actual product in the ring's great, you know, people are going to go, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too many choices out there to settle for subpar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's this conversation I've been having with a couple of places I work with, that the quality is great in what they're showing, but live attendance seems to be dropping, not significantly, but enough to be like, what's going on here, when we're doing the same thing or better than what we were doing the last time anybody saw us. And I think some of that has to do with the overexposure of wrestling. You're seeing wrestling, a broadcast wrestling event every day of the week. And then if you also have like an IWTV or a Fight TV trailer, or Premium Sports Network or High Spots Network, like any of those streaming services that are out there, then there's all these other opportunities to also stream additional content. And so it's like, wow, you're getting deluged. And so it's like, even for a live events, it's sort of, well, how do you reincorporate them to make it feel like a bigger event? Yes, the energy is way different when you're at a live event compared to watching it on TV. You feel that energy. You're pumped. You get just naturally excited when you're live in a crowd that's active and yelling and screaming and cheering and booing. Like you feel that energy, and it's great. So much more compared to just sitting at home and watching. But when you have all these other options, do I really want to leave my couch today? It's warm.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, and we'll at some point during the show we're going to mention that what AEW is apparently going to be doing with Collision, and I'm not sure it's a real good idea, but we'll see what happens with that. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we've got more coming at you here on the Mark Hoke Show. And by the way, don't forget, if you want to get those great travel prices for your hotels, go to TravelShark.com/Hoke Show. That's the TravelShark.com/Hoke Show. Get those Priceline employee rates at all the time, no matter what, and you'll actually get to see what they are. Go ahead and sign up right now at TheTravelShark.com/Hoke Show. We'll be right back on the Mark Hoke Show, everybody. Stick around for more.
101.5 FM KDAWN.
You're listening to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Vegas, The Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Now, here again is Mark Hoke.
All right, let's get back to it. The best in pro wrestling news and entertainment on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDAWN 101.5 FM, The Talk of Las Vegas. Phil Stamper with a serious look. He's ready to go. There you go. Got a smile out of Phil. Coach Rosey kicking back in the chair. And I'm trying not to pass out on the board. But we're having a terrific time talking pro wrestling here on 101.5 FM. Oh, and by the way, I still got to do it. Bionic Scoop is in the chat box. Scoop! See, he still got it out of me. God bless that man. It's awesome. One of the best pro wrestling photographers out there. Make sure you check out the Bionic Scoop. And, if you need a photographer for your event, he's a pretty good call to hire. I will say that. So, Scoop, thanks for listening to the chat box. Appreciate that. I wanted to bounce this off you guys because I think there's a very interesting dynamic that is taking place in AEW and across wrestling as well in terms of why is everybody cheering the bad guys all the time? This is really, to a point, I think is getting to be a little bit of an issue, especially in AEW, because if you run down through this full gear card coming up, you start sliding down and, we got Big Boom, AJ, and QT Marshall. And, we all knew that, while Big Boom was a wrestler, I think a lot of people wouldn't mind seeing AJ or QT deck him because we're already tired of that thing. But you have MJF and Roderick Strong, and MJF is the heel, but everybody's going to be cheering MJF in that match. And, Jay White and Hangman Adam Page are very ambiguous in their roles. The tag matches, you've got 3 face teams and 1 team that, with when you're talking about Malachi Black and Brody King, they're cheering for them too because people like them. Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander, and Statlander was just a heel a little while ago and just did a magic turn back to being a face. Swerve and Lashley, I almost wonder what the crowd's going to be like for that match because everybody's cheering for Lashley and he's supposed to be a heel, and Swerve was in the same spot too where he was doing heel things, but people were cheering for him, and you keep going down. Jack Perry, the anti-hero. And then you got Mox and Cassidy, and the Mox's guys were getting cheered on the last episode of Dynamite. Do we have a problem here, fellas, of the definition of what a heel is as opposed to what a face is? Let me go to you, Coach.
I've always been a heel guy because that's a person I can't be in real life. I relate to those guys. Moxley, who is someone I'd like to be with my boss, so there's a lot of people that really can really relate to the heels, but there needs to be a clear-cut baby face and a clear-cut heel to truly, truly create a story. Otherwise, you're just going to have a lot of little subplots, and you're not really going to have a true storyline. Hangman, love Hangman, but he's bounced from one person to the other, and hasn't had a long storyline like he had with Kenny Omega back in the day. That they were partners. They went on and had that singles feud, but there was continuity within the storyline. That's the big issue right now is you have these per pay-per-view storylines that get a lot of buzz, but then there's no longevity because they switch it up right off the bat when they go to the next pay-per-view.
Phil, what do you think about this issue? I mean, is this something that people should be really worried about in pro wrestling?
Well, to me, it's a big mix, because people said the same thing in the 90s. Here's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Well, where is he? And, they tried to land, he's a tweener. And it's like, I think there was an attitude shift. I think they were tired. Fans were seeing the same thing over and over. They wanted something different. And so what they're getting is you were seeing sort of placid Jon Moxley. And now you're seeing aggressive, intense Jon Moxley, which is what people wanted to see. So now it's like, well, okay, but they've been violent. We booed him when they almost killed Bryan Danielson. And now we were excited that like now they want to wreck shop, and now they want to rewrite the wrongs of AEW, which we've spent some time talking about ourselves. So it's sort of like, well, maybe, I'm interested in what they're doing. And now there is also a little bit of the delivery, and this is sort of a general heel statement. This is not necessarily a Jon Moxley thing, but there's a lot of people who are, I'm a bad guy, but I want you to like me. It's like, what? I don't know. Maybe we're also seeing that in some of our national culture too. I'm a bad guy. I want you to like me. But I'm a good guy, and I want you to think I'm cool, yo. So I think there's this weird blend of even talent wise, like where they're trying to set up their own personas to drive traffic and interest. Maybe the product needs to develop it a little better, but maybe that's why Moxley's getting over so in the way he is right now at AEW, because the product hasn't been delivering that quite as well. And like Josh said, there's been a lot of, for some people, they bounced here, they bounced there, but they bounced here. Like there's no clear, like who they are, delivery. The international audience might understand. The United States audience might not understand. And yeah, there needs to have, in AEW specifically, there needs to be a clearer focus on a lot of things, which is the whole point of what Jon Moxley is also saying and doing.
Yeah, and by the way, we're on with Phil Stamper and Josh Rosenbaum, and because I think it's funny that when a heel actually hits a point that people can identify with, like with what is happening with Jon Moxley and saying AEW needs to change. Well, there's a lot of people out there that are saying, yeah, yes, AEW needs to make some changes. We're cheering for you. We're on your side, even though we should be hating you. You know what I mean? And it's WWE, when they hit this big peak, I mean, they were just kind of floundering along until we got the Bloodline, a clear, definitive, we hate you. You are pond scum. We want to see you get beat. And then you bring in Cody Rhodes, who is now the white meat baby face. There's no question about it. And I think that when you're able to delineate those roles a little bit better, it gives you the true good versus evil battle that everybody's looking for. And I think it makes it a little tough when you have guys that are, everybody's kind of walking the line. People, I don't think people get as enthusiastic about it as they do when you have a clear cut, yes, this is the good guy. Yes, this is the bad guy. We know who we're cheering for. We want the bad guy to go down. You know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I'm trying to count in my head right now how many true baby faces there are in AEW besides
not many.
Orange Cassidy,
Darby,
clearly, and Darby and Adam Cole. And Adam Cole is on the referee because he's flip-flopped a couple times, but there hasn't been true baby faces to the extent that where you can have these long storylines.
See, I wouldn't even put Adam Cole in the baby face line when you think about it, because he was just torturing MJF for a little while ago, and then he got hurt, and all of a sudden now he's like, oh, I'm going to kill MJF, and but nobody wants to see that happen to MJF. I think more people would rather see MJF beat up Adam Cole right now, to be honest with you.
And I think there is a little bit of that, to be honest.
Yeah,
but that's kind of because they've also flip-flopped their own roles a bit too. So there's a little bit of a what are we doing here? Oh my gosh, it was only last weekend MCW had MJF at a fan jam convention where he was signing autographs, and the line was through the door. Mm-hmm. So he is drawing attention.
Yeah,
Phil brought up a good statement too when you said drive traffic. Mm-hmm. In today's world, in 30-second clips, heel chaos drives traffic. It's going to keep you for all 30 seconds of that video. Whereas if you see Cody, you kind of know what to expect, and you can kind of click out of it within the first 10. But if it's a Moxley, you got to watch all 30 seconds, because what can happen? Is he going to put a bag on someone's head? Is he going to break someone's neck? Is he going to light somebody on fire? So driving traffic is a big, big thing nowadays.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation for everybody in pro wrestling right now that I'm sure all of you are doing. I know Phil Stamper's a perfect heel, and no one will cheer for Phil whatsoever.
How dare you, sir?
Well, you don't want him to, do you?
Not as a heel.
Right. So I complimented you. Congratulations. I did. I said you're a great heel.
You all should see the look I'm giving Mark right now.
All right, everybody. Stick around. We've got more. Coach, thanks for joining us. I do appreciate it. Make sure you check out adfreeshows.com for all those great broadcasts they've got going on over there. And we're going to have Matt Black coming in for hour number 2 from WrestleZone.com. So stick around. We've got a whole lot more on the Mark Hoke Show. We'll be right back. Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join The Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.